Welcome to Data in Chief, brought to you by Action. Join us as we explore compelling data stories, share analytic breakthroughs, and hear from leaders leveraging data to make a difference.
Luke Komiskey, how you doing?
Fantastic. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, great to see you. I'm really looking forward to this interview. We've known each other for years. First, I'll give you a little bit of an introduction. Everybody, this is Luke Komiskey. He's the founder and CEO of DataDrive. DataDrive has revolutionized the data consulting by providing managed analytics services to mid-sized organizations, eliminating their need for in-house data staff. With a background in analytics at Slalom and as a world traveler, Luke's vision since founding DataDrive in 2017 has been to democratize data-driven decision-making for the small and medium-sized business. Today, Luke leads a global team serving over 150 organizations with cutting-edge analytics solutions. Luke Komiskey, welcome to Data in Chief.
Thank you so much for having me on, and wonderful job on the introduction.
Yeah, thanks. So you and I, we've known each other for years, right? We've been kind of peers, both starting and founding our businesses together. And it's really been such a thrill to see the different paths that we've taken in forming our respective businesses. And this is a conversation I've wanted to have with you, honestly, for years now. And I'm just so happy that we're having it in public so everybody can share. And one of the things that I've really appreciated about our kind of mutual journey together and starting and founding our businesses is just this ability to bounce ideas off of one another and to reference the other's kind of tacts and moves in navigating, starting and forming a business. Mostly as the ability to benchmark in terms of data strategy. So it's really about your data strategy and your business strategy and mixing those two things together in your formation to build DataDrive that I'm interested in today. But let's begin just with your journey. I came to learn recently that we both started our careers as SAP Basis folks.
Yeah, isn't that crazy? I didn't think there was many of us in the world.
Yeah. And it's actually not that common. I think most of the people that I worked with when I was young as an SAP Basis guy are still doing SAP Basis today.
Yes.
And so myself, I went from SAP Basis into data warehousing with SAP and then up into data analytics. And you followed a path. You went from SAP Basis into data engineering and then up into forming DataDrive and data analytics. How did that career journey evolve for you?
Yeah, so I graduated college with a computer science degree, and it was really at a time in the industry where either I would go sit in a cubicle and develop mobile apps, or data was starting to become more and more of a topic people are discussing about. And I eventually landed as a SAP BW data engineer at Cargill, which is the world's largest private company that I feel like 50% of the world actually even knows exist. Huge operation. It was a really great opportunity to see data analytics at scale. I mean, we had a team of 40, 50 people churning out info cubes and multi-providers and Bob J reports. It was a lot of moving pieces for a very complicated international company. But the one thing that I think that we, looking back, we would spend so much time, multiple months working on rolling out these SAP BW business object reports. And during the training, people only ever cared about exporting to Excel. So it's just all this elaborate work to bring it right back to a spreadsheet. During my time at Cargill, I had a really great opportunity to work alongside Deloitte, Accenture consultants. I love that they got to work on what I felt like was the more complicated projects, or the ones that didn't have a very defined end to it. And so through a series of mutual introductions, ultimately landed at a place called Slalom Consulting. They are a fairly big firm nowadays, but they run on a very local franchise type model where they land in a major metro and slowly grow out from there. I mentioned that because I had an opportunity to join the Minneapolis market when I think it was the 9th employee in the market. And it was a really cool opportunity to not only flex some consulting skills and learn what the heck consulting actually involves, but probably more importantly to my journey was I got to sit side by side with a ex-partner from Accenture and got to see the ropes of how do you run a consulting firm? How do you sell services? How do you think about the P&L of being able to grow at a business? And that is really what I took as my foundational piece to ultimately, jump into what I'm doing with DataDrive.
Yeah, so SAP Basis, SAP BW, the Slalom Consulting kind of training thing. And it seems like you're taking still a fairly localized approach to the Minneapolis market with DataDrive. One of the things that I'm really interested in is the way that you've sort of differentiated in your approach. You're really focusing on this concept of managed analytics, whereby you package up data analytics platforms and data analytics products and sell them out to your small and medium-sized customer at a fixed rate subscription service. Can you tell us a little bit more about how that works?
Yeah, for sure. So managed analytics services is a little bit of like a newer concept, or at least the marketing around what this service actually provides is new. But foundationally, it's very similar to what people expect when they hear about managed services. A lot of companies outsource a lot of IT functions, whether it's like resetting passwords or buying laptops. And managed analytics services is just that natural evolution of a way for a small mid-sized company that might be interested in building out a reporting platform, building out a data capability, but either doesn't have the skill sets or has no idea where to start, or probably a mix of both. And to be able to provide a proven framework, a platform, a team that has worked together to get full access to a wide breadth of skill sets, and oftentimes a breadth of skill sets that's hard to find in just one person. And so an opportunity for these small, mid-sized companies to be able to build out a data capability without having that long hassle, the risk around having to hire individual data talent when they likely have no idea what these like core capabilities, even what they're hiring for. And it's a challenge I saw a ton just during like throughout my consulting experiences. You go into these companies, you build out a dashboard, and then you just leave. And you know in the back of your head that they're not going to be able to continue to support those type of data assets, and you want to set them up for success. And that's really what this managed analytics services was born out of.
Got it. Yeah. I mean, because they're focused, that SMB, on their niche, on their business strategy. Data analytics is not a core expertise for them. And yet they need these data analytics skills, they need these data analytics outcomes. And so what you're doing is you're packaging up the ability for that SMB to just rely upon you to coordinate the resources, to hire and fire, to deliver the data analytics products on their behalf in sort of an outsourced managed service fashion.
Yeah, absolutely that. And I think what's also cool about it versus just traditional consulting is with these places, we have multi-year relationships. And so it's a really cool opportunity selfishly for joining leadership team meetings at our customers, playing the role of a fractional chief data officer, helping them think through how can they take that next step in their business strategy with using data. And I think that's what's really cool about this model is you get deeper relationships and you get the ability to stick around with this beautiful data platform that you've built out for them and get to watch it evolve and take that next step. And that was like so much of what I felt was missing in my own consulting journey. I would just build and leave, build and leave. And it's been fun to be able to experience an evolution.
Totally. I can completely relate with that. We haven't rolled out the action analytics approach to solving this problem, but it is a real problem with traditional consulting in that the consultants, they don't have the context of the ecosystem, the data environment, the systems, the data domain. They just parachute in and they build something without that contextual understanding. And then they don't have any skin in the game, and they're not around, 6 months, 2 years on to see the results of their work. And that's a real problem to solve. I love to see the way that you're doing that. And one of the ways that you describe that you're offering a service to your customers is they wouldn't even know which skill sets to hire for, or perhaps even how to vet those skill sets. And in the realm of business management, and even in decision making and in data analytics, of course, always hiring and firing is a really key component to running an organization. Can you share some of the challenges that you've faced in these areas and the lessons that you've learned along the way?
Yeah, for sure. So specifically just to like our customers first, I think a big part of that is helping them understand what type of skill sets are out there. I think so many business leaders that I talk to maybe only hear about the stuff that shows up in the big time magazines like data scientist, data analyst. Things like data engineers and analytics engineers are slowly starting to like make it part of normal language. But I think a lot of organizations just have no idea about the depth of skills, the breadth of skills that need to be in place to have a good data team in place. I think for me personally, as I think about my own just business journey of figuring out like what is the right way to build a business model, uh, with my background in Slalom and other consulting agencies, I saw a lot of more of that like traditional approach of building out a consulting and an agency. It's a very well documented path. They got really like clever word plays like upper out model, and it's really built around this idea of like having an amazing recruiting function and being prepared to like let go of people who aren't high performers, and it's really built around just like stack it up. What I found in my own journey when I was building just a traditional consulting model is that I just felt like it was literally a hamster wheel that kept getting bigger and bigger. If you think about just like trying to staff full-time people, you always have a fixed expense and a variable revenue that it, for me, it always felt like, and it wasn't always the case, but like you were always 90 days away from bankruptcy. It's just that constant feeling of like, I got to sell that next project.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's because of that evolution of both seeing that type of hamster wheel effect, as well as from a recruiting perspective, we had amazing recruiting function. We would find really great technology consultants that like both knew the technology, but for consulting specifically, be able to like speak the language of data and like have good customer rapport. The one thing I didn't like about traditional consulting models is that you would hire them and they would go work at another company. And so they would be your colleague, but outside of maybe like 30-minute meetings during a week, they would have really no
Mm-hmm.
attachment to like a bigger vision we're building.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, managed analytics services solves that kind of itch that I want, is having a team that's actually working together towards a common goal. And I think that's what's really fun about what we're doing now.
Yeah, you really want the persons that are working for you to be invested and to have a sense of ownership in the thing that you're building. But if they spend 80-90% of their time, working at the customer site, that can be a difficult thing to manage and maintain.
Yeah. Yeah. And to be able to like lean in on their expertise and actually build as close to a product as you can in the consulting world that you have ownership over, that you can continue to iterate and create efficiencies on. I think in consulting, it was more of just get in, get out, get in, get out. And you do your
Mm-hmm.
best work, but it's on to the next thing. And I really love this kind of concept of having a central platform that we can continue to iterate and get smarter on as a team every day.
Totally. And again, that long-term engagement with the customers so that you can get deeper into their domain, get deeper into the value that you're providing for them. That's really, really important. So I like the way that you've brought those two things together.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. And I think data more than anything is one of those where you need to have the context of the business, and you don't get that overnight. And so much of data product development is around iterations that sometimes it just really does not lend itself well to a consulting model. You can't just build it once and hopefully it works. It takes
No,
iterations, and that's just by design.
totally. Yeah. The first launch of a new data product, it's at best 50% done, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Yep. Okay. So these SMB customers, you're focusing on the small and medium-sized business as your target customer. And usually in those environments, the resources are really constrained, right? Like resources are limited. And so, where is it that you see analytics transforming decision making for the SMB? And which particular data analytics strategies can you recommend for these businesses in order to leverage their data effectively given the constraint on resources?
Yeah. Yeah. There's a lot to this question. And for SMBs, I think in general, from a just higher level consulting perspective, they are a very underserved market that still has just as many data needs as the rest of us. I think the technology innovations that have been taking place with the modern data stack, or whatever we're going to call it nowadays, has made it really easy for organizations to be able to dip their toes and get started on a data investment, because it's never been easier to build out a data warehouse that is run on the cloud, to have a reporting platform that's built by somebody else. I think a lot of times where I start with SMB leadership is like playing a little bit of a game of like Mad Libs, where we want to be able to help fill in the blanks of like, what is the ROI that would prove that this data investment was worth it this whole time?
Mm-hmm.
For many organizations, it can be a positive ROI discussion of like data monetization and getting reports sold to your customers. But what I mean by Mad Libs is saying like, for us to achieve X, we need to start measuring Y so that we can do Z, and continue to expand on those types of conversations. Because I think one of the biggest challenges that I see at the SMB market is these leaders are experts in their industry, their craft. They understand fundamentally in their gut how their business is doing, but to help put that in a perspective of data language and how to ask smarter, better data questions, it just requires a little bit of reframing of language. And we want to make sure that there's always this look back on what was the original purpose of why we even started a data initiative, because it's easy to spend money on data but not feel like you've achieved anything. And even selfishly for a managed services, like for us to prove our value, to prove that it's all worth it, we have to be in a value conversation and about measuring that.
Yeah, for sure. And of course, I mean, being measured and data driven has its advantages, but I'm curious, as you go through this Mad Lib, in order to achieve Y with X, we need to measure Z. The instrumentation for that data capture can sometimes be very challenging. How do you address, in this constrained, limited resources environment of the SMB, the difficulties that can exist with instrumenting the data capture for that data Z that they need in order to create the value given those constrained resources?
Yeah, this is definitely the tough part of we want to measure something that we may not actually be measuring today.
Mm-hmm.
And this is where, being a data-driven organization is more of a journey and an iteration. It's probably good to know before you get into a sizable data investment that it's even feasible to not just throw technology at technology's sake, but to like start measuring these individual process points that would be important to you. Thankfully, like a lot of companies, I think, are turning more and more to, especially small, mid-sized companies, like SaaS apps that have a lot of APIs that are available to them. So there's never been more data capture that's taking place, but there will always be the 20% of like, man, I wish we were really measuring this. But the best
Mm-hmm.
time to start measuring that would be today. I wish we had it 10 years ago, but let's do it today. And I think by having that conversation, you can help understand of like, okay, this is a journey we're on that a year from now, we're going to have a lot better perspective, more information about that. But oftentimes, yeah, we're just turning to the SaaS apps that they have available. We're looking into various APIs to see what kind of integrations can we build, how easily can we automate these data points out of it. That is a totally different discussion too that we can get into, of just the ever evolving platform of APIs and the Wild West that's going on there.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, what we really focus on with our customers that we work really well with is providing an environment that they can safely play around in a data sandbox. We can drop off data. It's governed. It's well documented. There are guardrails in place. If you have all of that in place, you're probably actually doing better than 70-80% of even some of the biggest companies in the world.
Mm-hmm.
It's just with small, mid-sized companies, it tends to be a little bit smaller of a sandbox overall, and that's to their benefit.
Mm-hmm. And so there's a couple of things that I can see possibly coming out of this. I mean, it sounds like a lot of these SMBs, they're using these SaaS platforms, which have their sort of canned available access points where you can get to the data. And then what you're doing is helping to structure that data, stick it into a sandbox for them that's governed so that they can do their own self-service analytics from this kind of structured, curated data source that you manage and maintain for them. Is that right?
Yeah, and our relationships will be different across customers. Some of them have a team of analysts that we can drop off data, and they can be, very much more focused on the day-to-day operations. That's something that will be hard for any consulting shop to be able to fill successfully.
Mm-hmm.
But there are a few customers where we are actually acting as their business analysts, where they have hypotheses that they want us to test, and we're able to explore with them. And because we have knowledge, because we know their data model, we built it. We have an easy ability to be able to churn out that analysis really quickly. So our goal in all of this is, if you want to hire, we'll absolutely help you hire data analyst, business analyst, help you find the person that's going to be more hands-on support for the ever moving and grooving that happens within business. But some organizations are like, hey, I know I don't want to make that investment, but this data capability is important. So we continue to play an analysis role.
Yeah, for sure. And I'll be curious to see, maybe we can have you come back in a year or so and see how it changes. It seems like the opportunity exists for a lot of specialization to occur for you, where you might find yourselves specializing in certain niche tech stacks and in certain niche business verticals, where you just kind of have this natural kind of specialization forming. I'll be curious to see how that evolves for you.
That's the next frontier is defining a repeatable niche across everything, it makes, from a just pure business owner perspective, it makes everything easier.
Yeah, for sure. And so you mentioned that, you have a diverse set of customers. Some of them have their own analyst teams. Some of them rely on your staff to do that hypothesis testing and that data business question answering for them. For those SMBs that recognize the value of analytics, but they lack that in-house data talent, what are some approaches that you can recommend that they can use to build up those effective analytics capacities? Are there any specific tools or processes or partnerships that can help them to bridge the data analytics skills gap?
Yeah, manage analytic services. That's the answer. No, I think there's a ton of opportunities for people to be able to upskill. I think some of the best hires you can make out of the gates is just getting a business analyst, a data analyst in there. I think they can be a cost-effective solution for a lot of our SMB customers to be able to just explore what data assets they even have to begin with, because they will help uncover, just uncover all the places where like it might not be efficient to pull or we have no data available. So they can help uncover things that, if you're just trying to dip your toe into building a data team, I think a business analyst, data analyst is probably 90% of what I'm seeing recommend for customers as like that first hire into it. But like I mentioned, there, with a lot of these modern tools that are out there, there is a lot of platforms that are making it dangerously easy, almost, truly dangerously easy to be able to explore your data by itself. A lot of like what we're transitioning as a data industry to, from my perspective, is we were all really big on this like self-service analytics, explore your data, test hypotheses, move quickly. And now we're kind of moving into the age of AI and LLMs, and how can we Google our data and how can we do that efficiently? And good things will come out of it. There'll be a ton of growing pains out of it, but I think it's going to be easier for business leaders to be able to ask questions of their data without necessarily having to rely on a niche skill set to go build something. Of course, there's going to be use cases for deeper analysis. I'm not here to say AI is going to replace data skill sets, but I do think it is going to help answer a lot of those 60% surface level questions that have been historically hidden behind a data team.
Mm-hmm. Provided that the data model and the data quality and the data governance is there, the data engineering, all of those background prerequisites are there in order to be able to train the AI, in order to Google your data. And this brings up another question that I have. It seems as though as this evolution is taking place, it's fairly probable that your SMB customer may see sort of spikes or surges in different types of skill sets that they need over time. And are you able to then provide to them like a fractional access to a data engineer for a couple of months, or now we need to put more emphasis on design, or actually what we need today is an algorithms person? Is that how your service works?
Yeah, absolutely. So it's the a beauty of being part of these conversations with leadership teams is helping them even. A lot of them have turned out into like road mapping out their data product. Where is it going to evolve to? And you touched on all of them. It's new integrations. It's refreshing the design, knowing what we know about it. It's maybe taking a little run at a predictive hypothesis or an AI hypothesis that we want to go after. And that's the beauty of our relationship we have, is that you have opportunity to like keep steady state, but then to dream bigger about what are ways that we can continue to grow our deployment without necessarily, having to go out and find that data scientist contractor or full-time data scientist hire. That can take a lot of time and you aren't guaranteed results. With us, because we are committed to having that long-term relationship, it is beneficial for us as it is beneficial for you. We have the same skin in the game to make sure we're delivering on what we're promising data can deliver for you, and giving you real insights, real perspectives on like what AI can do for you and what AI can't, right?
Got it. That makes sense. A lot of value added there, especially for those SMBs for whom data analytics is not their core skill set. So, Luke, as we begin to wrap, do you have any final thoughts or advice to our listeners who are navigating their own data journeys?
I think you touched on it a little bit, but I'll touch on again around just, I think we are entering that time of the AI LLM hype. It is much like every other wave of hype that has hit data analytics, whether it's big data, self-service analytics, all the other buzzy words that we've thrown out there. And, Keith, you said it well, like you don't have that solid foundation. AI isn't going to magically save you from that. In fact, AI has a way of confidently lying to you if it's right or wrong. And so as we enter this time, I think it's just, important for anyone who's starting on that data-driven journey to get to maybe take off those rose-colored glasses of the AI demo that you just experienced and do the critical work of setting up a data foundation. Because those demos look really great because it's pretty easy data behind the scenes. And I guarantee that if you haven't been working on building that muscle of a good data strategy and a data foundation, this AI tool that you're interested in buying isn't going to magically change that for you.
Right. And that's where it's really helpful to have a trusted partner along the way. Well, thanks so much, Luke, for joining us today. It's been a real pleasure to speak with you. For those who are watching that want to reach out and learn more about your packaged analytics services, where can somebody find you?
Yeah, so feel free to check out more about what we offer at godatadrive.com, godatadrive.com. And I am also incredibly active on LinkedIn. So feel free to connect and message me there, and I will gladly reach back out.
Okay, thanks, Luke. And thanks to you, our listener, for joining in to view us here on Data in Chief. We hope you found today's episode interesting and useful. And if you'd like to learn more about Action, we're at action.co. Thanks, Luke. We'll see you again soon.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.